My sister asked me a question the other day that I honestly didn't have an immediate answer for. Why do you like hawks so much? I couldn't really come up with an answer on the spot, other than, I like his sarcastic personality and his grunge storyline. But that answer sort of left me feeling a bit hollow. And the more I dwelt on it, the more I realised the answer really wasn't about hawks at all. This was actually about a consistent pattern, a kind of masculinity that I kept noticing in the stories that I love. So I've been on the internet for what feels like a really long time, and I rather consider myself to be a passive observer of the fascinating ecosystem that is the World Wide Web. In this time, I've watched entire movements rise, fracture, reshape themselves. I've witnessed online debates sort of spill over into the mainstream media and get really awkwardly misunderstood. I still recall how jarring it was to see a segment about Gamergate of all things in the local news and how horrendously butchered it was. And then eventually I watched the rise of what we now call the manosphere. And you know what? I wasn't at all surprised by its emergence. I was just really tired. You see, somewhere along the way, masculinity stopped being something we explored deeply in fiction, and it started being something we either mocked or feared. Over the years, I saw conversations, heard conversations, or was involved in conversations suggesting that traditional male heroism itself was something to be questioned and even dismantled. This is where we circle back to hawks. All this time, I've continued to love stories, pop culture, and writing. I have never stopped consuming what I love. I'm a fangirl at heart, and undoubtedly I will forever be one. So take that into account. This is coming from the heart of a fangirl. Therefore, before I can really explain the pattern that I started noticing, I think I should define something to you all first, because traditional male heroism is one of those phrases that tends to mean something entirely different depending on the person that you ask. For example, for some people, it conjures up the images of brute strength, dominance, and control. And it's true that sometimes positive masculinity looks like strength that is disciplined, focused, and is used in the service of others. Take, for example, Jack Reacher, which is a show that I really enjoy. However, the characters I am personally most drawn to, they carry something heavier than just strength. To me, the traditional male hero, at its core, is about responsibility. An ability to choose restraint when it's needed. A man who steps forward when something needs to be done, even when it costs him. One who protects, not because he needs the feeling of power, but because he understands the weight behind that power. He is the one who carries burdens so that others don't have to. He'll stand before the danger to the people he loves, and it will not be for the glory or the recognition, but because he simply chooses to do so. But above all, none of it will be loud, because he doesn't need it to be. His mere presence is loud enough. Now, I'll give you some examples of this type of masculinity in fiction. Harold Finch, from Person of Interest. Okay, so I'm going to be totally honest. As a side note, Harold Finch is currently the most attractive man on my television screen at the moment. So the fangirl in me is a little bit biased here. So Finch builds an AI that could basically rule the world, but then he limits himself access to it. Says there are ethics to consider and forces restraint. He then bears basically the entire weight of the American government's responsibilities on his own shoulders. You know how sometimes you get asked that funny question? Who would you feel safe with in an elevator? Harold Finch. I would feel safe with Harold Finch. Next on the list is John Robinson from Lost in Space, the 2018 version. So I think a lot of people sleep on John Robinson, but to me, this man was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. He was the stability his family needed. He literally did not move from being a stable force no matter what his wife, his kids put him through. He did not move in his love and adoration of his family. It was not flashy, it was not dominating. All he did was be a foundation for his family. And it was so perfect. I can't sing the praises of this series enough. It is beautiful writing. And next we have Yang Wing Lee from The Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Okay, I could honestly do an entire video essay on Yang Wing Lee and The Legend of the Galactic Heroes. But, I'll save that for another time. Yang did not want the responsibility that was thrust upon him. But he is well aware that someone has to take that burden. Otherwise, there will be a vacuum that will be filled by less savoury sorts, I suppose. There is this quiet, warm power behind Yang Wing Lee. He can command entire star fleets while still drinking tea, and everyone takes him seriously when he speaks. He is burdened with this immense responsibility, and he is so exhausted by it. Yet he keeps going, despite the impossible situation he is in. Okay, now, I do get it. These examples I've given you of positive masculinity, they are what I personally value. But I am not immune to adoring emotionally toxic vampires, as you can see me playing Baldur's Gate on screen right now. So please don't think that I'm signalling just one archetype of the traditional male hero. This is simply a pattern I noticed in my own personal preferences. I have many more that I could pull out of a hat. I'm fascinated by this pattern and how much I wish to see this reflection of masculinity in more media. I don't think we actually need to go back to anything. I don't think that's ever really an answer. I think we need to move forward. Because I think it's just that we stopped paying attention to the kind of heroism that has always been there. When you strip a hero of responsibility, when you take away the weight of what it is that they carry, the choices that they actually have to make, the cost of what they do, then it's all just, it's a performance. And that's never really been what has drawn me to stories. See, I think life, in its own way, is built on responsibility. And perhaps that is where the real heroism lives. It's not in the loud moments, but in the choice to carry something when no one else is watching us. Anyway, thanks so very much for listening to me just rant about this topic. I really appreciate it. And if you want, you can subscribe and watch me play Baldur's Gate and watch me write books and stuff. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.